There are 4 service panels to the space elevator that connect Xizor's palace to his skyhook in orbit. If you place pulse bombs on each of them, the palace will explode, and the skyhook will be cut off.
Why couldn't I just hyperspace ram it?
That's your answer to everything.
Yeah. It's such an elegant solution. All right.
Xizor's palace.
So now we're in Xizor's palace. Do we
just connected to the sewer?
Yeah, clearly. Which is kind of funny. I didn't think about it at the time, but thinking about it now. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it now, this texture reminds me of the textures of the walls in the Imperial City and the Imperial Palace or whatever in Dark Forces.
Yep. Yeah, very similar. Possibly even the same with some different shading.
And when we played through that, we kind of questioned what it was supposed to be. Like, is it supposed to be like marble or carved rock or something?
I was almost thinking polished, like lava rock.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Some obsidian.
With ridges. Yeah.
Yikes.
Dude. I think there's some items up there.
Oh no, I gotta fix my controls again. Oh.
The Shadows Wilhelm.
So Skank of the Sewer, do we have an idea of where his palace is in relation to everything else? Whoops.
I know it's not far from the Imperial Palace. Just from the book, inside the book, the way the descriptions read, it seemed like it was right at the heart of Imperial City, near the Senate and near the Imperial Palace.
Yeah, and obviously that would be like a prime real estate location for someone with ambition like Xizor.
That'd be like the District of Columbia for like Coruscant.
Yeah. Man, I keep hitting that button.
Yeah, the good old soundtrack, Shadows of the Empire. This one brings back a lot of memories of '96 because I had my first listen to the soundtrack as I read the novel. So I always, and I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like the movies where, you know, each time a new movie came out, I always bought the soundtrack, read the novelization. So it's very tied to May, June '96 for me. Even this game, even though I played this game later, but the story, Shadows.
Yeah, well,
collecting toys, all that.
Like we said, the Shadows of the Empire was a really big deal in the old EU at the time.
Yeah, it was the first multimedia presentation we had of a story where they were showing different angles and different sides to things. Because right now, even though it doesn't really happen in the novel, Dash mostly stays with Lando and Luke in the novel as they break out of the palace. But obviously, if you kind of squint at the continuity, you can kind of figure, okay, Dash goes off on his own, places these bombs, and then he links up with Lando and Luke again, you know?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. And then the comic book focused on Boba Fett. Well, it was kind of weird. It covered events in the novel, and then it also focused on Boba Fett as an exclusive, seeing how he got carbon frozen Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt.
Which, of course, had to be complicated, just like it will be complicated this summer with the War of the Bounty Hunters.
That's right.
Series coming out. Which by the time this is up on the channel, will probably be done.
Probably. Yeah, I guess it's going through the end of the summer, I think, right? And sort of into October.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the bulk of it is done by summer, but yeah, there's the full run of the story, I guess, goes to October. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to reading that whole series. And Alpha, the first comic or whatever they're calling War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha, just came out like a week ago or something. So
I just want more Zuckuss and Forlom.
yeah, I like Zuckuss and Forlom, or as the old classic newspaper strip called him, Zuckass,
Zuckuss.
because they spelled it like strangely, like it wasn't USS, it was like ASS.
Uh-huh.
And then on top of that, because again, the old bounty hunters during the production of Empire, they didn't quite really name them. Like they just threw random names on them for the action figures. But,
Right.
You know, so Forlom was Zuckuss and Zuckuss was Forlom back then. And then in the newspaper strip, Dengar was the one that they were listing as Zuckass. And that's the case when I read it like a month ago, because I finally read Classic Star Wars, the newspaper strips, and they kept saying Zuckass, but Zuckuss was nowhere to be seen, and it kept showing Dengar, and I'm like, did they call Dengar Zuckuss? And sure enough, I went on Wikipedia, and yes, he was Zuckass for the newspaper strip, because no one knew back then who was who. Is that a little pathway under the bridge there? Oh no, it's nothing. But yeah, it wasn't until West End Games was firmly laying down the continuity on certain things, where they were like, we're gonna give this droid-looking thing the name Forlom because that fits better and was probably the original intention.
Right. Well, yeah,
And
because
we're
like
gonna call-
you know, like, hey George, you got to name these guys. Okay, boom, 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 boom. You know.
Yeah.
Darth Icky or whatever that stupid story from
Oh yeah.
Force Unleashed devs.
Right.
I love that story because it shows how much of a troll George is.
Yep.
And like people just don't get it sometimes, you know?
They don't understand his humor. It is very dry humor.
Yeah. This part, and then jeez, man, gotta take it right to the face.
God, man, those things are just cheap.
Yeah,
it's not even fair.
This part coming up. This part.
Yeah.
That part. There's. It's really bugging me. I'm trying to figure out where I've heard a track like that from, or you know, that type of instrumentation and stuff.
Yeah. Some of it reminds me of Stargate a little bit by David Arnold. Actually, this whole soundtrack is very Stargate-esque, which would make sense. Mid-90s fantasy action adventure music.
I always have problems personally listening to a soundtrack to a book because it's so hard to kind of sync it up, you know, with what's going on. I mean, obviously you could have certain tracks on loop for a chapter or something like that.
Yeah.
Unless it's something ambient. I know that's really accessible now versus back when I was hot and heavy reading in the old
dude. When I was listening to this soundtrack as I read the book, I had just 6 months earlier I had gotten one of those little like AOA personal stereos, you know, like for a bedroom, double cassette deck, you know, CD player, radio, the 2 small speakers, and luckily, you know, it did have a CD player, and I could program the tracks to repeat and such. And I remember popping it in, and you know, on like the swoop bike chase, like having to repeat that track over and over because I couldn't read the scene fast enough.
Yeah.
I think the track was like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and it's like to read the scene is like 15 minutes. So, you know, it's one of those things. So yeah, looping the soundtrack as I tried to sync things up with the book, I remember that being a thing.
Still, it's a cool effort to even do it, to make a soundtrack for a novel.
Yeah.
Must be really hard. What was the name of the composer?
I don't Joel
remember.
McNeely.
Right, McNeely.
Joel McNeely, and it was I think the
Scottish. Set, and Luke has found Princess Leia. Just find a way out.
It was the Scottish Royal National Orchestra, I believe, and he had done scoring for the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, apparently. So he was already familiar to Lucasfilm.
We did a great job.
Yeah, it really did. I was just also extra blown away by the fact that they did do a soundtrack, because by the end of '95, before Shadows came out, I had been obsessively listening to the trilogy soundtracks, and just after about 1 year of listening, I knew them inside and out because I used to play them before I'd fall asleep every night, pretty much. So I knew every note on that whole box set, big 4 CD set. And before that, I even had them on vinyl, and then I recorded them onto cassette. And so I just constantly had them playing. And back then, even after just 1 year, a 4 CD set isn't enough. You're hungry. You know, you're hungry for more. So
yeah, anything. Crumbs, give me crumbs.
Yeah.
In my side, not to mention a most disruptive, uninvited guest at my palace. I apologize that I am unable to give you a guided tour, as I have more pressing matters to attend to at my Skyhook. However, I remain a gracious host and leave you in the company of my favorite gladiator Dross. I hope you find him as entertaining as I have over the years.
Robot Jocks. I love that movie.
I still have only seen the trailer.
It's worth a watch.
It's been sitting on my hard drive for 2 years now.
His walking animation is great because they lend a sort of a sense of scale to him.
Yes.
With that little resting hop thing that he does.
Nice. Wow. Okay.
It'd be funny if it fell on him.
That's weird. He fell and then he gets up and his legs are just gone. They're not even laying there or anything. They're just gone. They disintegrated. Wow.
Yeah, this is a lot easier on easy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Malfunction?
What? You know what? When I played this 5 years ago, I remember getting that one time, and I don't know.
I think it was just for the transition. They didn't want you.
Oh yeah. Was Django's fucking bomb thing just Lucas making canon Dash Rendar's?
Maybe they just needed the sound.
Yeah.
Oh wow, we gotta play it again. I only got 2 challenge points.
Oh man, yeah, let's do it 17 times now.
Yeah, no thanks.